Hello everybody. Today we're going to be discussing all of the survivors' mentioned families in Don't Starve Together. Now I know every character in the game has to have some form of family due to how biology works, but in this video we're going to be looking at quotes, appearances, and other references that directly mention any survivor family member, so we can help piece together some backstory and lore for our favourite band of freaks. We're going to go over entire family trees, one-off mentions in quotes, and even corn-plating frames from animated shorts. To start off, we'll begin with the Carter family, since it's the most expansive and well-documented family we know, and also one of two families where direct relatives can be seen in-game. Obviously, you have Wendy Carter and Abigail Carter, who are direct siblings to one another, but we also have William Carter, or as the commoners know him, Maxwell, who is both Wendy and Abigail's uncle. Their connection and kinship is alluded to in-game with quotes for things such as Abigail's flower and the cistern, but is never outrightly declared. Even in the William Carter puzzles, an old ARG that went into the backstory of Maxwell, and by extension, his family. In this ARG, we can see that Maxwell received a postcard from his brother, Jack Carter, and mentions his twin daughters, as well as Jack and Maxwell's mother, who Jack mentions hasn't met their daughters yet. This was the first time Jack Carter was mentioned, who was later actually seen in person in Wendy's animated short, Wish You Were Here, where we can also see Wendy and Abigail, back when the latter was still alive. But notably not Wendy's mother, Jack's partner. However, she is mentioned through several quotes from Wendy in-game, such as how yellow gems remind her of her, with the moon lens gem making her remark on what her eye colour once was. Her lack of appearance in Wendy's animated short, as well as Wendy forgetting her eye colour, has led a lot of people to believe that Wendy's mother is no longer around in some form. However, it wasn't until we got Wendy's rework update and the vignette released alongside it did we get smoking gun confirmation of Wendy's family and Maxwell's family being outwardly related confirmed, where an obituary of Abigail is found, showing her last name to be Carter, the same as Maxwell's as is established in the William Carter puzzles. Funnily enough, up until that vignette was released, it was all just heavily alluded to and correctly assumed. This makes the Carter family the most documented out of all of the families in the game, letting us paint a simple little family tree. Sadly, we know very little of Jack Carter, his partner, and even Wendy's grandmother, Jack and William's mother, but we do know that Jack used to own a shoddy tool shed, and according to the unused quote for a shadow clone dancing, did silly dances a lot. Isn't that sweet? But not every character has such an expansive family tree like this one. Some are like Wilson and only mention one whole family member in any of their quotes, and that's his grandmother whenever he inspects a Victorian Beefalo costume scrap, which, in case you don't know what that is the stuff you collect during the year of the Beefalo event to make costumes. Anyway, Wilson had a grandma, like, you know, everyone kinda has to. But know how he talks about her in the past tense, which means most likely she's no longer with us. Let's now look at the second in-game confirmed family, and that is the, well, we don't know their surname, but the family that Winona and Charlie belong to. Due to the playbill quote, it most likely starts with a W, by the way. Charlie and Winona's sisterhood is no secret. There's plenty of quotes from Winona that reference having a little sister, one of which Charlie herself even comments on in the game's code, and the pair have been seen interacting in numerous animated shorts, from a flashback to their youth to the very moment Winona was taken. Fun fact, Winona was mentioned all the way back in the William Carter puzzles we mentioned earlier, albeit unnamed in a letter that Charlie wrote to Maxwell. Also, I almost completely forgot to mention, in Winona's animated short there is a picture of Charlie, Winona and their mum and dad, and you can very clearly see who shares their appearance with who. But you probably already knew that one though. But I bet I do have one you don't know, and that's that Wickerbottom mentions her mother. In her quote for Meaty Stew, she mentions how it's not like Mum used to make. Mum being spelt in the Commonwealth way, but also, in her quote for the blubber suit from Shipwrecked, mentions how her mother would be proud that she got some meat on her bones. I guess Wickerbottom was always a picky eater, even when she was younger, huh? But much like with Wilson, she does also talk about her mother in a past tense, and with how old Wickerbottom may be, it's no surprise that her mum might not be with us anymore. Doubly so for her grandma that she also mentions in her quote for Frayed Yarn, unless she's somehow in her 100s and still thriving in the early 1920s. Thank you to Rob for letting me know about this one, by the way. Next, let's talk about Weber. Oh boy, do we know a lot about this kid's family, because he never seems to shut up about them. Only second to another kiddo we'll be looking at later. Weber regularly mentions his parents and even grandparents in his quotes, as well as actually seeing his mum and dad in his animated short. As well as that though, you can see a picture of his granddad in this frame here. What we can gauge from Weber's quotes though is a whole lot, since this kid is always talking about his mum and dad. From how his mum always handled all the sewing, to how unhappy she was when Weber broke one of her vases. As for his dad, he mentions how he used to wear top hats and even owned an alchemy engine, which we can see in the animated short. Weber has a lot of good things to say about both of his parents, and we'll be here all day if we go over every single quote for them. But what I want to bring most attention to is his grandparents. Firstly, you probably already knew about the tam o' shanter being worn by his granddad, which bridges the whole Weber is Scottish theory, but also how he would take Weber fishing, make meatballs with him, and even wore floral shirts. He seemed like a really cool granddad, and with how Weber's quote for the second-hand dentures refers to him wearing them in present tense, is very likely alluding to the fact that Weber's granddad is still alive. At least, we can hope so, with how time works and the constant and all that. Most of you already knew that Weber refers to his granddad a lot, but did you know he also mentions his grandma? Not as much as his granddad, but he does mention how she used to make creamy potato puree, and that Pearl reminds Weber of her, only a bit meaner. It's lovely that Weber still thinks so fondly of his family. I just hope one day he's able to see them again, and that they'll still love him even if he is this big freakish spider amalgamation. Let's dial it back once more and look at some characters that only mention a single family member, like Wartox for example, who mentions his mum still has his tooth somewhere when inspecting the lava tooth. The idea of a weird magical creature such as Wartox having a mum makes him seem so mortal in a way. Just like Wanda, she's very mortal. But she also mentions only one family member, who is her baba, which she mentions when inspecting taffy or even enjoying holiday cheer. What is a baba? Well, it depends on the part of the world you're from, meaning father or even grandfather in certain South Asian cultures. Now I just got a really weird thought all of a sudden that Wanda can now be older than any of her parents. That would be very weird for all involved if she ever got out of the constant. Speaking of weird, let's talk about Wolfgang's uncle. If you inspect a mosquito as Wolfgang, he'll mention how they remind him of his uncle. Annoying, a bloodsucker, frail. Well, if you inspect the mosquito's sack, he'll also say how his uncle didn't have guts like this. Either Wolfgang disemboweled his uncle, or he means he's just a coward. Let's hope for the latter. Big Guy Wolfgang will also mention his mother if you inspect garlic powder, saying it smells just like Mama used to make. But I have one more thing to say about Wolfgang, and that's that the Ringmaster seen both in his animated short and Weber's short looks so much like him, oh my god. Am I the only one here who assumes that this is his dad or other relative? What if this is Wolfgang's cowardly mosquito uncle? Oh, the plot thickens. Or it could just be a dude that really looks like him. No, come on, let me know down below, do you think this guy is related to Wolfgang, or am I just seeing things that aren't there? Please agree with me, it will make me feel better. Let's look at a character now who, much like Weber, never stops talking about their parents, and that's Walter. Yep, as you can expect from an energetic child lost in a dimension of infinite death, he does indeed mention his family a bunch, specifically his mother. He mentions her talent for baking with quotes for wax paper and gingerbread cookies, but also makes sure to spare a thought if she's doing okay with his quote for the mush lamp. What a good kid. But he also doesn't have any quotes for his dad at all, so it's likely his father isn't in his life at the moment. Or he just doesn't care to mention any quotes about his father. We know nothing. He does mention his grandpa via the quotes for relics, however, saying it's older than the furniture at said grandpa's house. Walter's grandpa is an ancient theory? No way. Let's move on to the other Canadian representative in the game, with Woodie. Obviously we got Woodie and Lucy, who are never explicitly stated to be married, but come on, these guys used to share a shack together and express their love for one another on the regular. It may never be confirmed, but you'd be hard pressed to find an argument against that these two are a married couple. However, other than that, Woody will, much like Webber, refer to his granddad wearing tam o' shanters as well. Does this mean Woody has some Scottish heritage in his blood too? Or is he Webber's brother? God, I don't think so, no. All the plot thickens. Not as thick as the loogies his mum probably spat up though, as he mentions that the Eucus reminds him of his mother. That is a gross thing to say, did I really just say that? Quick, next topic, let's talk about Warley. Oh, Warley, right. It's no secret to anybody that Warley, before being taken to the Constant, loved and cared for his maman, Angeline, whose dwindling health was most likely the reason he made a bargain to come to the Constant to begin with. However, in the short, we do see several family pictures in the background, and even more so clearly in a promotional vignette released alongside the short. We can see full family pictures, and what looks to be a photo of Warley as a child with Angeline and his father. But no mention of his father is ever seen in-game, or even any other family member for that matter. It's likely that, since Warley was the one looking after Angeline, there was nobody else local in his family to look after her. Warley probably had to quit his job in France to come home for her, wherever this fancy tropical area may be, because nobody else could. Maybe his family moved away, or maybe they're no longer with us. We have no idea. Except for one, and that is Warley's Nana, who he mentions with seafood gumbo and shark fin soup. Maybe it was her that ignited his spark for cooking. Just a cute thing to think about. However, that is it for the families we know as of now. There are sadly quite a lot of characters who have absolutely no mention of any family to them. Those include Wickfrid, who never breaks character and therefore never mentions her family, except her Aunt Hilda when she inspects a sleeping beefalo, but who knows if that's real or just an act. Wes, who also never breaks character of not speaking. Willow, who is an orphan and, besides the other kids in the orphanage and the caretakers, is never shown or even has quotes for any potential family members, adoptive or otherwise, except the mysterious wrinkly hand grandma with the lesser glowberry quote. Wirt was probably birthed from the primordial soup and never mentions having a mum or any siblings, just other merms that she hangs out with. Wormwood was birthed from the moon, so I guess you could say Alter is his mother. And finally, WX-78, who birthed their robot body themselves. But they do mention that the science machine is their mother, and refers to pretty much every other machine in the game as a sister or brother or any other kind of relative. There's also the mention of Wagstaff with his Aunt Velma when he's inspecting stuff without his glasses on, but if we are going to do these solo characters as well, we'd be here all day going over Willani's brother spitting and Wilbur's extended royal family. Maybe that's a topic for another day though. But for now, I hope you all enjoyed it. This was my attempt at going over every survivor's known family in Don't Starve Together. It doesn't really matter what their family was before too much, since nowadays, for the foreseeable few years, this ragtag team of losers is everyone's new family. Who knows though, by the time they leave the Constant, thanks to how time moves in the Constant, all of their families could be gone. I don't really want to dwell on that topic anymore though. Thanks for watching and supporting everybody. I hope you all have a lovely day. If there's any family quotes that I missed or glossed over, do let me know in the comments down below. I probably missed like a random quote where Wirt talks about their mosquito nephew or something. We all make mistakes though. But that's the end of this video for today. Have a lovely day everybody. Thank you again for watching. Bye bye.